My name is Jack Miller, and I spent 40 years working at the same big bank in Portland, Oregon. I was the dependable guy in a suit, the one who never called in sick and always fixed other people's mistakes. My coworkers thought I loved that life, but the truth is, I just knew how to wait. That night, my division head raised his glass and talked about how I had guided our department through recessions and market crashes, like I was some kind of steady old captain. People laughed, clapped, and slapped me on the back. I smiled and pretended to enjoy it, but my eyes kept drifting to my family's table. Something about the way they sat there, too stiff, too interested, made the hair stand up on the back of my neck. My wife, Lisa, had been acting strange for a month. She was bringing me coffee in bed, touching my arm more than usual, talking about how we would travel when I retired. Our kids, Emma and Tyler, who usually could not bother to call, suddenly wanted family dinners and long talks about old memories. None of it felt real. It felt like everyone was reading from a script. After the speeches, I walked over to the table. Lisa, 60 years old and still proud of her silver blonde hair and expensive clothes, put her hand on my arm. Emma, 38, a sharp corporate lawyer who took after her mother in looks and cold ambition, exchanged a look with Tyler, 35, who had my build but none of my discipline. "Congratulations, Dad," Tyler said. There was something in his voice that was not joy. It sounded like he was already celebrating something else. "We have a special surprise for you," Lisa added, smiling too wide. "A little retirement gift." She reached into her designer purse and pulled out a thick manila envelope. She slid it across the table with careful, polished fingers. Emma lifted her phone, pretending to check messages, but I could see the camera aimed at me. "What is this?" I asked, even though my gut already knew. "Open it," Emma said, like a director calling action. I opened the envelope. Inside were divorce papers, property transfer forms, pension documents, all neatly prepared and waiting for my signature. "We thought we would make this easy," Lisa said in a soft, practiced voice. "One signature, and you can start your new life. Your pension is ours. You get nothing." Tyler leaned back with a smirk. "Congratulations on 40 years of wasting your life, old man." I stared at the papers. Inside, rage burned hot, but outside I was calm. For 40 years, they had seen the harmless banker. That was the version of me they thought they controlled. They had no idea who they were actually dealing with. I took out my fountain pen, the one Lisa gave me on our 25th anniversary, and signed every page slowly, neatly. "Understood," I said, tucking the pen back into my pocket. "I will clear out my office and be gone by morning." Lisa barely looked up. She was already scrolling through vacation packages on her phone. Emma smiled at Tyler. They believed they had just pulled off the perfect heist. They had no idea they had just set off a trap I had been building for 15 years. 3 days later, Lisa's phone would not stop ringing. She tried to log into our joint accounts and found them empty. Emma got a call from the family lawyer, his voice shaking. "It is happening earlier than we planned. Everything is gone." By then, Jack Miller, the husband and father, had vanished. The truth is, I had been preparing for that moment since the night I found out who my wife really was. 15 years earlier, on our 25th anniversary, I had picked up Lisa's phone to send a photo and saw a string of messages from our friend and financial advisor, Mark Harris. It was not just dirty talk. They were sending each other spreadsheets and plans, talking about how they would be set for life once I retired and they got access to my pension and investments. I did not confront them. I did not yell. I did not cry. I just quietly changed the game. Before I ever worked at the bank, I served in the military. My job was not glamorous. It was intelligence work, information, patience, finding the weak spot, and waiting for the right moment. When I came home and took the bank job, I kept that part of myself hidden. They saw a boring numbers guy. They never saw the one who knew how to dig into systems, read people, and plan years ahead. Over the next decade and a half, I built a second life in the shadows. I bought 7 properties through shell companies. I moved money into offshore accounts and separate structures they did not know existed. I learned how to trace digital footprints and how to erase my own. Every fake smile at a family dinner, every birthday, every holiday, I was watching, recording, storing information instead of giving them more of my trust. In a small, anonymous apartment across town, I set up what I called Checkmate on 3 monitors. It was a full control room of their lives, accounts, emails, messages, legal records. Everything. When I walked out of that retirement party, I did not just walk away from a job. I stepped into that room and turned the key on a plan that had been waiting for them. From that apartment, I watched the chaos begin. Lisa tried to move money. Nothing there. Tyler called my old office, only to find that my personnel file was locked down and scrubbed. Emma started calling in favors, leaning on judges and lawyers she knew, but every search for me ran into walls I had already built. He cannot just disappear. Lisa snapped at Mark as they sat in her kitchen. Mark had gone soft over the years, living on rich lunches and easy money. He is a boring banker, not a ghost. Your boring banker husband withdrew exactly $10,000 from 20 different branches yesterday, Mark said. That is $200,000 in untraceable cash. Lisa insisted it was impossible, that I did not have the spine for this. Then Mark's phone chimed. He went pale. What is it? She asked. I have just been flagged for an audit by the Securities and Exchange Commission, he whispered. Someone sent them evidence of irregularities in my client accounts. That someone was me. I had every shady thing Mark ever did documented. Years of using client money for his own gain. That packet had gone out through anonymous channels, timed perfectly. While he was scrambling, I sent another file, this one to Tyler's employer, showing how Tyler had been siphoning company funds to cover his gambling debts. Screenshots, transfers, timestamps. All neat. All ready. For Emma, I had something worse. She liked to think of herself as the smartest one in the room, the star attorney. So I put together a case file showing how she had buried evidence in 3 high-profile cases to get convictions and win points with her firm. That file went to the state bar. Within 48 hours, Mark's office was raided by federal agents. Tyler was fired and under investigation, and Emma was called before an emergency bar committee hearing. Back at home, Lisa learned the house she thought we owned outright actually had a second mortgage she never knew about, and the payments were already 3 months behind. They all gathered in Lisa's living room, panicking. In 2 days, they received 43 calls from lawyers, regulators, creditors, and investigators. This is Dad, Emma said, pacing. He has been planning this. That is ridiculous, Lisa snapped. He does not have the brains or the guts. Then how is everything falling apart at the same time? Tyler shouted back, eyes bloodshot from stress. Right then, the doorbell rang. A courier handed them a white envelope with their names on it. Inside was a handwritten note in my neat script. Chess is about seeing your opponent's moves before they make them. You have been playing checkers your whole lives. The game has just begun. Under the note was a photograph, Lisa and Mark kissing 15 years earlier, on the night of our 25th anniversary. The night I decided to stop being their victim. When panic really set in, Lisa went to the only person she thought might help, my younger brother, Rick. Unlike me, Rick never took a desk job. After the army, he built a construction company off military contracts. At 60, he still had that hard, straight look that made people sit up and listen. I have not talked to Jack in years, he said, sitting across from her in his office overlooking the shipyards. Please, Lisa said. Our accounts are frozen. Our reputations are destroyed. Jack has vanished. Rick studied her, then asked, And you are worried about him? Of course, she lied. Rick laughed without smiling. Do you know why Jack and I stopped talking? Lisa shook her head. Because 15 years ago, he found out you were cheating with Mark. He came to me. I told him to divorce you on the spot. Rick leaned forward. But my brother was soft when it came to you. He loved you. He thought you would eventually choose him. I could not stand to watch him get played, so I stayed away. You knew? Lisa whispered. Jack knew too, Rick said. He knew for 15 years. He just watched. Waited. Prepared. Prepared for what? She asked. For you to show your hand, Rick said, standing up. You never knew who you were married to. Before the bank, we worked in operations no one officially talks about. Jack was the planner, the one who could see 5 years ahead, while the rest of us could barely see 5 minutes. Lisa left his office finally understanding something ugly and simple. She had never really known her husband at all. That night, Mark went back to his fancy condo, tired and scared. He opened his door and stopped cold. I was sitting in his living room chair like I belonged there. How did you get in here? He asked. The same way I have been getting into your accounts, your emails, and your offshore stash in the Cayman Islands, I said. You really should not have used Lisa's birthday as your password. He lunged for his phone, but I was faster than he remembered. Sit down, Mark. I am not here to hurt you physically. That would be too easy, I said. He dropped onto the couch. What do you want? He asked. I want you to understand that every dollar you stole is documented and already queued up to be sent to the authorities, I told him. If I do not reset a timer every 24 hours, all of it goes out automatically. Your complete destruction is riding on a dead man's switch. You are bluffing, he whispered. I played an audio recording, his voice and Lisa's voice, talking about how they would get control of my pension and investments once the divorce went through. I have been recording everything for 15 years, I said. Every word, every transfer, every lie. What do you want from me? He asked, already beaten. Nothing but to watch you collapse under the weight of what you did, I said as I stood up. And I want you to carry a message to my former family. I can forgive a lot of things. Betrayal is not one of them. The following week, Mark tried to take his own life. A neighbor found him in time. When he woke up, he confessed to protect himself and dragged Lisa into the mess, telling investigators how she had pushed him to juggle accounts and hide money. Tyler, facing charges for embezzlement, tried to run. At the airport, he learned his passport had been flagged. He was turned around and escorted out in handcuffs. Emma, stripped of her license, found out that every job application she sent was quietly blocked. No one wanted a lawyer with her kind of record anywhere near their company. The people who told me I was nothing were discovering what it feels like to lose everything. Exactly 1 month after my retirement party, I made my last big move. I had invitations sent to Lisa, Emma, and Tyler, telling them to come to a downtown hotel for a settlement meeting. The letter promised a chance to talk things through and maybe work out a deal. They showed up dressed for business. Instead of a mediator, they walked into a conference room packed with reporters and investigators. I had tipped off the press about a major financial corruption story tied to some of Portland's respectable names. When my family tried to turn around, security guards hired by me blocked the doors. The lights dimmed and a projector clicked on. On the wall, slide after slide showed exactly who they were. Bank records, email screenshots, audio clips, photos with dates and times. A full picture of 15 years of betrayal. I did not show up in person. There was only a video, my face calm on the screen. At my retirement dinner, my wife and kids handed me divorce papers. I said, my daughter told me, your pension is ours. You get nothing. I nodded, took out my pen, and signed. Understood, I said. Then I cleared out my office and disappeared. In 3 days, they got 43 desperate calls. They tried to take everything I had worked for. What they did not know was that I had been preparing for this exact betrayal for 15 years. When I signed those papers, it was the last gift I ever planned to give them. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. Lisa tried to shield her face. Tyler cursed. Emma stared straight ahead, her jaw locked. But there was nothing they could do. The story was out, and the law was already moving. 6 months later, I sat on a quiet private beach in Bali with a cold drink in my hand and a tablet in my lap. The sun was going down, the sky turning orange and pink. On the screen, the news from Portland painted the rest of the picture. Lisa had been indicted on multiple counts of financial fraud. Tyler had taken a plea deal and was heading to prison for 5 years. Emma had managed to avoid prison, but only by giving up her law license for good. She was working as a hostess in a restaurant, seating people who probably would have been her clients once. Mark, after surviving his suicide attempt, decided to cooperate with the government. He testified against all of them to save his own skin. The same man Lisa chose over me was now one of the reasons she was going down. My secure phone rang. It was my brother, Rick. They are finally being sentenced next week, he said. You coming back? I watched the waves roll in. No, I said. I have already given them enough of my life. Any regrets? He asked. I thought about all the years I spent pretending not to see what was right in front of me. Only that it took me so long to see them clearly, I said. After the call, I logged into my last monitoring system. I watched their names for a moment on the screen, my wife, my kids, the advisor who thought he was smarter than everyone. Then I deleted everything. No more tracking. No more watching. They had tried to strip me of my pension, my home, and my dignity. In the end, they lost their freedom, their careers, and their image. They wanted to walk away with everything. Instead, they walked straight into their own ruin. The game was over. The board was clear. Justice had taken its time, but it had arrived right on schedule. I turned off my phone and walked down the shoreline, letting the water wash over my feet. Behind me, the waves rolled in and smoothed out every footprint, like I had never been there at all.